Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that you couldn't imagine them being the one to hurt you?
It's strange how love blinds us, how we start ignoring the small things, the tone that changes, the messages they hide, the smiles that aren't for us anymore.
Sometimes betrayal doesn't start with lies. It starts with distance, with the silence between conversations, with a hand that doesn't reach for you the same way. You don't notice it all at once. You feel it, slowly, in the way they stop saying goodnight first, in the way you start checking your phone just to see if they still think of you. And by the time you realize it's not love anymore, it's already too late. But this story, this one isn't about anger or revenge. It's about the quiet kind of betrayal, the one that leaves no bruises, just questions. What happens when the person who promised to protect your heart is the one who quietly breaks it? If you've ever been lied to, if you've ever stayed up late trying to make sense of someone's change, if you've ever loved harder than you were loved, then this story is yours too. Hey everyone, welcome to True Betrayal Stories, where real emotions meet real moments.
Here, we tell stories that remind you you're not alone, because heartbreak may break us, but it also connects us in ways words never could.
So grab your heart, take a deep breath, and let's step into a story about love, trust, and the moment everything changed. When I met Daniel, it wasn't fireworks, it was calm. The kind of calm that makes you feel safe, like the world has finally stopped spinning. I remember the way he smiled when he first said my name. Slow, certain, like he already knew I'd matter. And maybe that was the first red flag I ignored, that someone could make me feel seen so quickly. But when you've been invisible for so long, attention can feel like love. We met at a small bookstore downtown. He reached for the same book I did, a poetry collection I'd been searching for weeks. He laughed and said, "Maybe fate reads too." That line stayed with me. It wasn't just the words, it was the way he said them. Effortlessly warm, like he didn't have to try. I gave him the book. He insisted I keep it. And before I knew it, we were sharing coffee 2 doors down, talking about everything and nothing until the sun disappeared. The days that followed felt like something out of a dream. He texted every morning, called every night. He remembered the smallest things. How I took my coffee. How I hated the sound of ticking clocks. How my favorite scent was vanilla mixed with rain. Every gesture, every word felt intentional, like he was slowly building a world where I belonged. We started spending weekends together, cooking, laughing, exploring quiet corners of the city that felt like they were ours alone. He was patient when I wasn't, gentle when I broke down over things from my past. And when he held me, I believed that maybe, just maybe, love didn't always have to hurt. I told him everything, my fears, my childhood, the things I never said out loud. He listened, really listened. And when he looked at me, it felt like the world finally made sense. My friends used to tease me about him, said he was too perfect, but I didn't care. I thought perfection was just what love looked like when it was real. We talked about the future, our future, where we'd live, the trips we'd take, even the names of the children we might have someday. He used to say, "You're my peace," and I believed him. I believed every word. For the first time in years, I stopped overthinking. I stopped doubting. I let someone in completely. And that's the thing about trust. It doesn't come with a warning label. It doesn't tell you that one day, the same person you let in could be the reason you lose faith in everything good. Looking back now, I think the betrayal didn't start when he lied. It started when I stopped questioning, when I decided that love like this couldn't break me. Because that's what Daniel was to me. Not just love, but safety. And when safety betrays you, it hits differently. There were no signs back then. No distance, no change in tone. Just soft mornings, inside jokes, and promises that felt like truth. The kind of love that makes you want to believe forever is real. But forever, I would learn, has a fragile heartbeat. One that falters the moment you start to believe nothing could ever go wrong. If I could go back to that bookstore, to that first moment our hands brushed, I wonder if I would have let him take the book, or if I would have walked away before he became a story I can't stop telling. Because the truth is, I didn't fall for Daniel in a moment. I fell for him over time, in the space between his words, in the quiet safety of his presence, in the illusion that love like that couldn't possibly end. But endings don't announce themselves. They begin quietly, With small changes you mistake for routine. And before you know it, love becomes memory, and trust becomes the weapon you never saw coming. The first change was so small that I almost missed it. He stopped texting good morning first. It sounds ridiculous now. How something that simple could sting. But when you've built your days around someone's words, silence feels loud. I told myself he was busy, that work was stressful, that love doesn't always need constant reassurance. But part of me already knew something was off. Daniel had always been predictable in the best way. The man who double-checked doors before bed, who planned every weekend, who made sure my favorite mug was washed every night because he knew I'd need it in the morning. But now there were gaps, days when he'd disappear into his phone, smiling faintly, the kind of smile that used to belong to me. He started working later, coming home exhausted, saying little. When I asked about his day, his answers were vague. Just the usual, or you know how it is. The conversations that once stretched into the early hours had shrunk into silence. I tried to fill them with questions, with laughter, with anything to remind him of what we used to be. But it was like talking to someone behind glass, close enough to see, too far to touch. One evening, while we were having dinner, his phone lit up on the table. He didn't look at it right away, but I saw the name, Maya. He said she was a new coworker, someone he was mentoring. I smiled, pretending it didn't bother me. But that night, when I reached for his hand in bed, he shifted slightly away. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make me feel something in my chest crack quietly. The little things kept piling up. He changed his phone password. He started hitting the gym more, buying new clothes, cologne I'd never smelled before. When I asked, he said he was just taking better care of himself. I wanted to believe him, so I did. Because that's what love does. It convinces you that doubt is disloyalty. I tried harder. I planned dinners, weekend trips, small surprises, but each effort felt heavier, like I was dragging something that no longer wanted to move. He would smile, thank me, but his eyes were somewhere else. I started overanalyzing everything, the way he said my name, the tone of his goodbyes, the pauses between texts. My mind became a maze of maybes. Maybe I was too emotional, too clingy, too much. One night I asked him directly if something was wrong. He laughed softly, brushed a strand of hair from my face and said, "You worry too much. I love you always." And for a second I almost believed it again. His words were right, but his eyes, they told a different story. A distant one. Soon, even his scent began to change. He didn't smell like home anymore. He smelled like somewhere I wasn't. There were nights when I'd stay awake, listening to him breathe, wondering who he was dreaming of. It's a strange kind of loneliness, lying next to someone who feels miles away. I wanted to shake him, to beg him to see me again, but I didn't. I just held on tighter, hoping he'd remember how it felt to be loved by me. I started journaling, writing down the small things I noticed. Missed calls, the new cologne, the way his phone was always face down. I told myself I was imagining it, that all relationships hit rough patches, but deep down something colder was settling inside me, a quiet knowing that the man beside me was slowly becoming a stranger. Then came the night he came home late. His shirt smelled faintly of perfume, not mine. I asked where he'd been. He said dinner with colleagues. I nodded, smiled, and said nothing. Because when love starts dying, sometimes silence feels safer than truth. I stood in the shower that night, water running over me, and tried to remember when I stopped recognizing the sound of his laughter. When I stopped feeling like enough. It wasn't dramatic the way it faded. It was gentle, almost merciful, like love was trying to leave without hurting me too much. But pain doesn't ask for permission. It just settles in, quietly, like fog. I told myself this was just a phase, that love like ours couldn't vanish this easily. But deep down, I knew we were already unraveling, not in screams or arguments, but in silences that stretched too long, in smiles that didn't reach his eyes, in the spaces he no longer filled. And in that silence, I realized something I didn't want to admit. Sometimes betrayal doesn't begin when someone cheats. Sometimes it begins the moment they stop choosing you. The night I found out the truth, it wasn't because I was searching for it. I'd stopped checking his phone, stopped asking questions, stopped fighting ghosts I couldn't name. I think part of me already knew, but denial is comforting. It lets you live in the echo of what once was. It was a Friday evening. Daniel was getting ready for a team dinner. He looked sharp, too sharp for a work event. I stood by the door, watching him fix his tie, and for the first time I noticed how easily he avoided my eyes. When he kissed my cheek, it felt like muscle memory, not affection. He said he wouldn't be late, and I told him to have fun. My voice didn't even shake. After he left, I cleaned the apartment, replayed old voicemails, tried to remember what it felt like to be loved without suspicion. Around midnight, I texted him, no reply. An hour later, I called, straight to voicemail. I told myself he must have fallen asleep, or maybe his phone died, but my chest felt heavy, my hands cold, my stomach twisting in that familiar way that only truth can cause. By 2 a.m., I couldn't sit still anymore. His jacket was hanging on the back of the chair, and as I reached to fold it, something slipped out of the pocket. A small folded receipt. A restaurant I didn't recognize. 2 meals, 1 bottle of wine. A date, the timestamp, 9:47 p.m. I read it 3 times before it sank in. It wasn't proof, but it was enough. Enough to know he hadn't been where he said he was. Enough to break whatever thin thread was holding us together. The next morning I confronted him, calmly, too calmly. He looked surprised, almost offended that I'd even ask. He laughed, said it was a business dinner, that I was overreacting again. That word, again, it echoed in my head like an insult. I asked who he was with. He said the name before he could stop himself. Maya, the coworker, the friend, and in that moment I didn't need explanations. The way he said her name told me everything. It was gentle, familiar, practiced, the same way he used to say mine. I remember nodding, pretending I didn't care, pretending I was fine. But inside something shattered quietly. Not just love, trust, pride, safety. It all crumbled in one heartbeat. He tried to reach for me, to explain, but I stepped back. There was nothing left to explain. The moment he chose someone else to share the parts of him that used to belong to me, our story ended, even if we were both still standing in it. I spent the next few days in a haze. Every sound, every scent, every space in the apartment reminded me of him, of us. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to text him before remembering there was nothing left to say. He didn't call, he didn't come home. I didn't ask where he was. I just sat with the silence. It was louder than any fight we'd ever had. When you discover the truth, it doesn't hit all at once. It seeps in slowly. You start replaying every memory, searching for signs you missed. The nights he was working late, the sudden care for his appearance, the way he started turning his phone face down. The truth had always been there. I'd just chosen to love him louder than I listened to my instincts. Days turned into weeks. The house felt emptier than ever. I kept waiting for him to come home, to apologize, to beg, to fight for me, but he didn't. And that was the hardest part, realizing he'd already moved on long before I found the receipt. And that's when it hit me. Betrayal isn't just the act of cheating. It's the quiet decision to stop trying. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something. Have you ever stayed in a love that was already gone? The kind where you hold on, hoping they'll wake up one day and remember who you used to be to them? Tell me in the comments. Because maybe your story, like mine, began with good intentions and ended in silence. The morning after I confronted him, the apartment felt colder. I sat by the window, wrapped in his hoodie, the one that still smelled like his cologne, trying to convince myself that this wasn't the end. That maybe there was still something to fix. That people make mistakes, but love shouldn't have to survive on excuses. When Daniel came home later that day, he didn't say a word at first. He just stood there, his eyes heavy, his jaw tight. I could see the guilt clinging to him like a shadow. I wanted him to speak first, to tell me it was all a misunderstanding, to lie if he had to. Anything but silence. But when he finally opened his mouth, his voice was low, almost broken. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said. Those words cut deeper than a confession ever could. "Didn't mean for it to happen" sounded like an accident. Like tripping over a feeling. Like betraying someone was something you just stumbled into. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. But all I could do was whisper, "How long?" He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. Months, maybe longer. Every kiss, every night we lay side by side, every "I love you," he had already been half gone. I asked him why. He said he didn't know. That he felt disconnected, lost. That she listened. That she made him feel something he couldn't explain. It's strange how people talk about betrayal like it's passion or weakness, but the truth is simpler. It's choice. 1,000 tiny choices that lead you away from someone who would have chosen you every single time. I told him to leave. My voice didn't shake this time. I didn't cry. I just stood there, holding the last pieces of what used to be us, and watched him gather his things. The door closed softly behind him, and that sound, it wasn't just an ending. It was a silence so final that it felt like the world had stopped breathing. The days after blurred together. I deleted his pictures, blocked his number, tried to erase him from my life. But grief doesn't follow logic. It hides in places you don't expect, in the smell of coffee, in old playlists, in empty side of the bed. I'd wake up reaching for him, and every morning, I had to remember all over again that he was gone. People say time heals, but they never tell you about the part where time just reminds. Every second without him felt like proof of how easily someone can forget you while you're still remembering everything. My friends tried to help. They told me I was better off, that he didn't deserve me. But betrayal doesn't just take the person. It takes the version of you that loved them without fear. I didn't just lose him. I lost the part of myself that believed love was safe. There was one night I almost called him. My hands hovered over his number, my heart pounding, tears blurring my vision. I wanted to ask if he missed me, if she made him laugh the way I did, if he ever thought of us. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew the answer, and I wasn't ready to hear it. Instead, I wrote him a letter I never sent. I told him everything I couldn't say out loud, that I forgave him, not because he deserved it, but because I couldn't carry the anger anymore. That I wished him well, but not happiness, because some happiness shouldn't come at someone else's expense. And when I finished, I realized forgiveness isn't about them. It's about freeing yourself from the story they left you trapped in. Weeks later, I ran into him by accident. He looked different. Guilt has a way of aging people. He smiled faintly as if we were old friends. I smiled back, politely, even though my chest was on fire. For a brief second, our eyes met, and in that silence, I realized something powerful. I didn't miss him. I missed who I thought he was. As he walked away, I didn't cry. I didn't ache, I just felt lighter. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't end with heartbreak. It ends with acceptance. The moment you understand that their betrayal wasn't your failure. And for the first time in a long time, I breathed without pain. In the weeks that followed, my world felt quieter, but not in the peaceful way. It was the kind of quiet that hums with unanswered questions, where every corner of your mind feels too loud, and every song on the radio feels like it's trying to remind you of what you lost. I stopped checking my phone, stopped reaching for the side of the bed where he used to sleep. But grief isn't just about missing someone. It's about learning how to live without the version of yourself that existed when they loved you. I'd sit by the window at night, staring at the city lights, thinking about how easily people move on, how someone can share your entire world one day and be a stranger the next. I wondered if he ever thought of me, if he ever regretted it, or if betrayal becomes easier once you've already broken someone. Maybe he told her the same stories he told me. Maybe she laughed the same way I used to. But the thought that hurt the most wasn't that he replaced me, it was that he could. There's something haunting about realizing you were temporary in a story you thought was forever. I started questioning everything. What I missed, what I could have done differently, whether I wasn't enough. But healing doesn't start with answers. It starts with exhaustion. You get tired of replaying the pain, tired of waiting for apologies that will never come, tired of shrinking yourself to fit someone who's already gone. Slowly, I began reclaiming my space. I changed the sheets, moved the furniture, repainted the walls. Every small act felt like reclaiming a part of me he had quietly taken. I started going on walks again, rediscovering the world without his shadow in it. The air felt different, sharp, unfamiliar, but it was mine. There were days I'd still break down. Grief doesn't move in a straight line. It loops, it circles back. One minute you're fine, the next you're drowning in memories. But each time I fell apart, it hurt a little less. I realized pain isn't meant to disappear. It just becomes bearable when you stop fighting it. I began writing again, something I hadn't done since before Daniel. Words became my way back to myself. I wrote about love, loss, betrayal, not as a victim, but as someone who survived. There's a strange beauty in pain when you finally own it. It stops defining you and starts teaching you. Sometimes, at night, I'd whisper his name, not because I missed him, but because I wanted to prove to myself that it no longer had power over me. I'd remember the sound of his laughter, the warmth of his hand in mine, and instead of sadness, I felt gratitude. Because even though he broke me, he also forced me to rebuild. I started seeing people again, not romantically, just friends, conversations, laughter. I realized that life doesn't pause when your heart breaks. It keeps moving, waiting for you to catch up. And little by little I did. I began to smile without forcing it, laugh without guilt, and look at the world without bitterness. One afternoon I found the book we reached for the day we met, the poetry collection. I opened it, and inside the cover he'd written a note. For the woman who made me believe in love. I stared at those words for a long time, then smiled. Maybe once they were true. Maybe for a moment, we both believed in something pure. And that's enough. I placed the book back on the shelf. It no longer felt like a memory. It felt like closure. And as I stood there, sunlight spilling through the window, I realized something I wish I had known from the start. Betrayal isn't the end of your story. It's just a painful rewrite. It strips you bare, forces you to look at the parts of yourself you gave away too freely, and teaches you how to love again. Not others, but yourself. Healing didn't come in a single moment. It came in fragments, in laughter that didn't ache, in mornings that didn't start with tears, in the quiet acceptance that some people are lessons, not losses. Daniel's betrayal broke me, yes, but it also freed me. It showed me that strength isn't in holding on. It's in letting go without hating yourself for it. And for the first time in months, when I looked in the mirror, I saw someone new staring back. Someone softer, wiser, whole. Healing didn't arrive like a sunrise. It crept in quietly, like light sneaking through the cracks of a closed room. One day, I just realized I hadn't thought of him for hours, then days, then a whole week. The ache that once lived inside my chest had softened into something lighter, something I could finally carry without breaking. I started doing the little things again, the ones I used to love before Daniel became my world. Saturday mornings were for coffee and open windows. I'd sit by the sill with a blanket around me, watching people pass by, letting the world move as it always had, even when I couldn't. I began to laugh again, really laugh. At my own clumsy cooking, at my friends' silly stories, at nothing at all. It wasn't forced anymore, it was real. I stopped checking his social media. I stopped wondering if he ever missed me. Because the truth is, some questions don't deserve answers. They only keep you chained to moments that no longer belong to you. And I was done being someone's memory. I focused on myself instead. On the woman I had abandoned somewhere between loving him and losing me. I learned how to be alone without being lonely. I took solo walks, traveled alone, went to the movies with no one waiting beside me, and slowly, I started falling in love again. Not with someone else, but with my own company. One evening, months later, I stood in front of the mirror, brushing my hair, and for the first time, I saw peace in my own reflection. My eyes weren't sad anymore, they were steady. My smile wasn't forced, it was honest. I realized that heartbreak hadn't destroyed me. It had rebuilt me, piece by piece, into someone who knew her worth without needing anyone to validate it. Sometimes people ask how you know you've healed. I think it's when you can think of them without pain, when you can remember the good without wanting it back, when you can finally say, it happened, and feel gratitude instead of anger. Because not all endings are tragedies. Some are just beginnings disguised as loss. A few months later, I met someone new. Not in the way you expect, not fireworks or instant chemistry, just kindness. A soft kind of presence that didn't demand anything from me. He listened without trying to fix me, and that alone felt healing. But this time I didn't rush. I didn't build him into a dream. I let things unfold slowly, carefully, aware that love isn't about possession, it's about peace. Still, I promised myself one thing. I would never lose myself in someone again. Love should add to you, not consume you. There were nights when the past tried to whisper back, memories of Daniel, his laughter, the promises we made, but I didn't fight them anymore. I let them come and go like waves brushing the shore, some things you just learn to coexist with. Pain doesn't vanish, it transforms. One afternoon, while walking through the city, I passed by that same bookstore where it all began. The one where our hands touched over a poetry book. I almost didn't go in, but curiosity tugged at me. Inside, everything was the same. The smell of old pages, the quiet hum of soft music. I found the exact shelf, the same book, and smiled. Not because I missed him, but because I no longer did. I bought a different book this time, something new, something mine. And as I walked out, the sky opened up with a light drizzle. I laughed, not caring about the rain soaking my clothes. It felt like the world was cleansing itself. Like maybe. So was I. When I got home, I made tea, sat by the window, and started writing again. About strength, about rediscovery, about the kind of love that begins when betrayal ends. Because that's what healing truly is. The courage to start over without fear of what broke you. If you've ever been through something like this, if you've ever given your heart to someone who didn't know how to hold it, remember this: you will heal. It won't happen all at once. It will take time, tears, and endless nights of doubt. But one day you'll wake up and realize the story that broke you also taught you how to rebuild. And when that day comes, you'll see that betrayal wasn't your ending. It was your beginning. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for listening to my story, but for feeling it with me. Because the truth is, betrayal isn't just mine. It's something almost everyone carries quietly inside them. Whether it came from a lover, a friend, or family, it leaves the same kind of scar. The kind that only time, honesty, and self-love can fade. When I first started telling this story, I thought it was about him, about what he did, about how it ended. But now I know it was really about me. The girl who believed too deeply, the woman who learned to stand again, and the heart that kept beating even after it was broken. If you're watching this and you're still in that space, the one where everything hurts, where trust feels impossible, where you can't imagine smiling again, I promise you, you will. You'll wake up one day and the ache will be softer. You'll see a version of yourself that's stronger than you ever imagined. And you'll finally understand that sometimes, heartbreak is just life's way of clearing space for something better. Here, on True Betrayal Stories, we don't hide from the pain, we face it. We tell it, we own it, because every broken piece of your story matters. Every tear, every sleepless night, every why me. They're all proof that you love deeply. And that means you're capable of healing deeply too. So if this story touched something inside you, if it reminded you of your own scars, I want you to do one thing: share your story in the comments. You never know who might need to read it tonight. Sometimes healing begins when someone else finally says, "Me too." And if you're ready to turn your pain into power, to walk with us through more stories like this, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and turn on the notification bell. Because every week we share real emotions, real lessons, and real people who found light after their darkest moments. Remember, betrayal might break you, but it also builds you into someone wiser, someone softer, someone who finally knows what real love should feel like. So from me to you, thank you for listening, thank you for healing, and most of all, thank you for surviving. This is True Betrayal Stories, and this was mine.